Hello. This two-part series will discuss sharpening, noise reduction, artifact removal, and resizing in PhotoLine. The first video will address the full-size original image, treating it as a master file from which copies are made and resized as necessary. Let's view the image at 100% for sharpening and noise reduction. All digital images require capture sharpening. A certain amount of this may be performed automatically by the camera or during RAW conversion. The sharpening tool we will use in PhotoLine is unsharp masking. It may be accessed via Filter, Sharpen, Unsharp Masking, or as an adjustment layer via Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Unsharp Masking. It is important to note that before resizing, adjustment layers for sharpening or noise reduction must be flattened because the parameters will no longer be appropriate for the resized image. Let's go ahead and use an adjustment layer so we can preserve the original as the background layer. Size refers to the blurring of the unsharp mask that is used to sharpen the image. As the size increases, halos become visible. Note that PhotoLine's size parameter is about 3 times larger than other applications' radius parameter. Intensity refers to the amount of the effect that is applied and is comparable to the opacity of the adjustment layer. Threshold limits sharpening to high contrast areas and can prevent the enhancement of noise in smooth areas such as the sky. We can choose what channel or channels to sharpen. The best choice is the L channel, as the visual impression of sharpness is almost entirely based on the luminance component of an image. Also, color noise is usually more objectionable than luminance noise, and we would rather not enhance it. Let's start by turning threshold all the way down and intensity all the way up. Now we will gradually increase the size. When we get to 8, for example, the halos become obvious. Light halos around dark objects, dark halos around light objects. Remember that for later. A certain amount of halos are inevitable with unsharp masking, but we would rather that they were subliminal if possible, so we will turn the size down until they're small, such as to 3. Then turn the amount down to about 150%. Now, looking at the smooth area of the sign, we can gradually increase threshold until the noise fades a little. The effect maxes out at about 3, so let's keep it there. The eyeball button can be used to assess the overall effect. There is still a small amount of digital noise in the smooth areas. It makes sense to apply noise reduction before sharpening because sharpening enhances noise. But on a practical level, it's hard to evaluate the noise that needs to be removed before the image is sharpened. PhotoLine, unlike most editors, is able to put both unsharp masking and noise reduction on adjustment layers, so we can have the best of both worlds by creating a noise reduction layer under an unsharp masking layer. Select the background layer and then use Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Denoise. Let's start by turning both kinds off. This image doesn't have much color noise, so let's look at intensity noise. Noise reduction is a balancing act between getting rid of unwanted value differences versus actual image detail. Like cooking a small fish, it's easy to overdo it. Size refers to the size of the chunks that are removed as noise. Threshold determines the value difference that's considered noise, and intensity limits the overall effect. Let's keep intensity at 100 and turn threshold all the way up. Now let's gradually increase size until the noise in the smooth areas basically disappears. It is mostly gone at 2, and 3 looks like too much. We can hold down the Shift key and go up to about 2.4. Now let's turn threshold all the way down and decide just how much we want to remove. 1% already looks like it's too much. Let's start over and go up to about 0.6. Another general principle is that noise tends to be worse in the shadows, and a color filter may be used to limit the noise reduction to the areas that need it most. Let's look at the sky. If we toggle the denoise layer, we can see that it has no effect on the sky and minimal effect on the blue water on the globe. So let's create a color filter. Right-click, Color Filter. Start by moving the upper slider down until the denoise effect is lost from the dark part of the sign. It happens around 30. Let's raise the slider to about 35, then split the upper slider and raise the upper half to the top. Now the denoise effect is preferentially applied to the shadows. Now, sharpening enhances image artifacts, junk like this, so let's remove it. The available tools are Remove Brush, Healing Brush, and Copy Brush. It would take a whole video to describe them all, so let's use the one that's the most useful for spotting, the Remove Brush. These edits are non-destructive if we put them on a transparent layer. Layer, New Layer, RGB, Background Transparent, and check Use Transparency. One of PhotoLine's personality traits is that you have to specify whether or not a layer has an alpha channel for transparency. This icon here is the Healing Brush. If we right-click it, we can choose the Remove Brush. The important setting is Source, Active and Below. This tells the brush to make edits based on everything below the new layer, but the new pixels will be on the new layer in case we change our minds later. We also need to set the brush hardness. A fairly hard brush is best. Hold down the Control key and drag the mouse to resize it. It should be a little larger than most of the spots we plan to remove. Now, target their weapon systems. You can spend an hour on a single image if you want to, or just hit the highlights. And as you can see, all of our edits are on the new layer. Now let's put our edits into a layer group so they will be easy to flatten as a unit when we decide to resize the image for another purpose. Let's call it Capture. Next, we will look at resizing and output sharpening.